I wanted to follow up on something you said yesterday. You
Okay.
mentioned that kickers generally start to come into their own when they hit their 30s. Why is that?
I think it's a combination of figuring out how to really manage their bodies along with the technique and the workload. And Patty, it's a long season. When you're a young player, your body's not used to the duration of the season. A lot of people reference a rookie wall. And that's just a fact. Your body's not caught up and adjust. And that's for a first-year player, first-year coaches in the NFL go through the same thing as well. I know I personally did myself. I think by the time you get a little bit, under your belt, experience-wise as a specialist too, you have more of a rhythm of your weekly preparation. You have more of an ability and a confidence to actually communicate with the coach sometimes. Hey, I need to go later today, need a little extra work today. So I think just as you get older, it's knowing how to manage your body best. And then once you kind of figure out your timing and your technique and you've had success to that point, it's kind of about just, preparation and repeating and executing, make sure you stay on that track.
And then how much of a factor is it that, kickers usually in their 30s, a lot of them have kicked in different types of environments, indoors, northwest, northeast, and so forth. How much of that factors in?
I think it's tremendous, to be honest with you. I think that's a huge thing. It's all the experiences they go through. The experiences within the games and the experiences within practice, the exposure they get to different elements. Every stadium's different. You have to understand the wind pattern, and nobody understands it better than specialists. When you talk about playing in Buffalo or playing in Green Bay or playing in New England, you can ask a specialist, and they can tell you the wind pattern. And the really good ones can tell you the wind pattern after a storm if it reverses and flips as the pressure changes. So it's amazing to really listen to some of these guys, talking to Graham and, previous years, when I work with Gostkowski, guys like that really understand not just their own bodies, but they're very in tune to where they're kicking. If it's a dome game, you'll see guys a lot of times go to the indoor and kick because they're not facing any wind. So it may be an outside practice for the team. That kicker has to get his work inside as best he can, even if he comes out later and joins the team to kick outside with the protection. But those experiences are critical, Patty.
Thank you, Coach.
No problem.
And Coach, there's a lot of questions, from the outside about your young cornerback group. And earlier in the week, it looked like, especially on Monday, there were a lot of struggles. What have you seen, improvement-wise, and looking forward to tomorrow in the inter-squad work? And what are you looking for specifically from that group of guys?
Well, we're looking for a level of improvement every day. And when we go in after today, we're going to turn the tape on. There's things to highlight that are positives, and there's things to coach off and correct that everybody has to learn from. They've got to start first with, the scheme and it fits into it, and that's really what leverage they play, where their help is and how they're matched up on a specific play. And then secondly, it's a technique that fits into each, kind of coverage we have. Different kinds of man require different kinds of coverage, different kind of zones require different kind of coverage and leverage. So, within each one, there's some variety. The biggest thing we're looking for is just consistent improvement day by day. And for every guy, Ed, it's a little bit different. Some guys may be better on the line of scrimmage. Some guys better in a deep part of the field. Some guys better reacting and breaking on the movement of the receiver. But we're trying to get all of them right now on the same page across the board and make them consistent throughout the play.
Thank you.
Bruce Beck.
Hey, Joe, how are you?
Good, Bruce. How's it going?
Good. Joe, now that you've seen your team on the field for a few days, what do you think of your team?
I'm pleased with the way they work right now. They come to work every day with a lot of enthusiasm and urgency. They're very coachable. These are guys that are very in tune to the details that we're preaching within our program. I've seen a lot of camaraderie being built through the competition on the field as well as the interaction off the field in the meeting rooms, in the dining hall, in the locker room. You're starting to see a lot of the personalities really start to come out. So it's a fun group to work with. I love coming to work every day.
Thank you.
Schwartz.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, pretty much every coach you listen to says that draft status, money, experience doesn't matter to try to make the team. You know what I mean? And some coaches actually believe that. Not all do. I think they all say it. Do you think you believe that 100%? And if so, why? And also, is there something about undrafted rookie guys that maybe have a better chance to make your team than someone else's team? Is there something intrinsic about those undrafted guys that you gravitate to?
Well, Paul, I can just tell you on the back end of that question, I can't speak for 31 other clubs. I just know we have a high value for anybody who comes in every day and produces. And that's what we're looking for. It's production business. We're looking for guys who improve on a daily basis, guys that fit what we're trying to do, both culture-wise and schematic-wise. So I don't care where you're drafted, undrafted, where you came from, rookie, vet. That really doesn't matter to me. Truly doesn't. At the end of the day, we're going to put the best 11 on the field. And while on the outside that seems tough to believe at times, you've got to imagine at the end of the day, I've got to look 53 guys in the eye, and I've got to tell them I gave them all the best chance to be successful. And you can't lie to those guys in the locker room. Those players know who the best players are. They line up and compete against them. So if you force somebody in just because of maybe where they were drafted or how much you signed them for, you got 52 other guys staring at you, knowing you're lying to them, but you're not giving them the best chance right there. So, you can say a lot of fluff around here and there, but you got to be honest with your team. And those guys know better than anybody else who the best players in the locker room are.
Thank you. One quick follow-up. Did the couple of your undrafted rookie receivers, the kids from Ohio State and LSU, they come from big programs. Are they competing out there the way you want to see them? Do they show something?
They are. They're really improving on a daily basis. And you can see early on we had that acclimation period, Paul, where there's a lot of walkthroughs. And it's just naturally see guys, they break a huddle, they go the wrong way, they line up, they don't have a motion exactly right, but they don't repeat mistakes. And that's the biggest thing. Come out the next day, they break the huddle, they're in the right spot. They get a motion, they run the way you want to. They get a shift, they're in the right spot. And they're starting to understand the coverages, how the leverage applies to them on a specific route, the details and the execution of the footwork, securing the ball, catching it, tucking it, turning upfield with a tight turn, identifying the defender coming at you, and then attacking either as leverage or working away the spaced out run as pursuit angle. They're doing a really good job. And the one thing is you look across the meeting room, those guys right there, those young receivers, they got wide eyes and they are staying attached to you the entire meeting wherever I move. They're in tune and they're taking, good notes.
Thanks, Joe.
Pat Leonard.
Hey, Joe, I noticed at the beginning of every practice, it seems like you have a comment or something to say to about at least half the roster, walking around while they're stretching. Why is that kind of face-to-face coaching from the head coach important? Have you always done that? And, what are you saying to these guys at that moment?
Well, it's different to everybody. To me, it's just having daily contact with every player. I think it's very important. And I've always been like that, whether I was, the low man on the totem pole or now my position, where I'm overseeing everything. To me, it's important to have daily connections with every player in your roster. It's important that they know that you know them on a personal level and you care about them. Now, look, depending on what happened that day, sometimes you're giving them a reminder on a certain technique or scheme. Sometimes you're just checking on how they're doing personally, and sometimes you're talking a little smack to them, see if you can get a little bit of juice in them. So it's different for every player every day, but we got a fun group. They're fun to float around with. There's certain guys on the team, Colt McCoy, Zeitler, some of the older guys, Golden. They like to mix it up a little bit right there, have a little bit of fun. Sometimes the rookies, they don't understand the sarcasm early in practice just yet, but they'll get it.
One quick follow-up. Corey Ballantyne looked like he was held out of the 11-on-11 in the second half of practice today. Was that for any particular health reason?
No, you know what? We're really just trying to structure everyone's legs right now to really get them into tomorrow's scrimmage and let them go full tilt. So we had a lot of players today that we had really looked at the GPS information throughout the week and wanted to go ahead and map out practice for the right rotation of the entire team.
Thanks.
Rock.
Joe, I want to ask you about two defensive backs who come from very different, took very different paths here. McKinney and Jaron Williams. What have you seen from them so far?
Those two guys compete. They both compete. And that's the number one thing that stands out about both those guys. Look, the program you come from is really irrelevant. Some guys have a little more exposure to certain kinds of schemes or vocabulary that may give them a jump start initially. But really, wherever you come from, you've got to learn this level of football. I've dealt with a lot of guys from small schools, guys that had to change positions, and they've been able to do that successfully in the NFL. Once you get your foot in the door, all that matters is what you do here. But speaking specifically on those two defensive backs, the thing that I really like, Tom, about the way those guys come to work every day is the points you make in the morning meetings, you see show up on the field. Whether that's eye controlling the quarterback in zone coverage, whether that's playing aggressive on the line of scrimmage and man, whether that's blitzing off the edge and taking an edge of the blocker and not fitting thick down the middle of them, whatever it may be, those guys care over what you talk about. And that's important. When you see a guy who's working the technique you're coaching and they're executing how they're supposed to execute, that's when you can really coach and clean it up. Because if a player's not doing what they're supposed to do and they're not trying to do it the way you're teaching them to do it, there's really not much you can coach on and correct at that point because they haven't done it right to begin with.
Just a quick follow-up, too. Bruce asked you earlier about what you thought of the team, and you talked about how much you enjoy them, how much of a pleasure it is to be around them. Is it too soon to know what they are as a football team, skill-wise?
Look, it's entirely too soon. I mean, tomorrow's our first scrimmage, an opportunity to go out there and really start working. I'm pleased with the direction we're going right now, Tom. I see daily improvement from everyone. I see an urgency to improve, and this is an evolving process. It's a long season. You're going to see a lot of teams come out there in week one, and no matter how they look good or bad week one, they're going to be a completely different team week 16. I had the opportunity last year. I mean, Pat Graham was defense coordinator at Miami. We played them in week 2. All right, we go down to Miami. They really weren't much a team. They came up to our place in week 17 and beat our butts. And they were a much better, much improved team. And that's why I have a lot of confidence in what Pat's doing out there. I've seen his guys in live action. I've seen him play with practice squad players and get them to a level of being NFL on-the-field game day players and beat us. And that's important to me. So, to me, it's not what you are right now. It's where you're building towards. Where's this progress going? We're coaching every day to get every player to develop, and that's key. We're trying to get every player in as many reps as we can so that they can have the experiences in practice that'll carry over to the games.
Thank you.
We're going to take 2 more, Kim and Jordan. Kim?
Hey, Joe, it's Kim Jones from NFL Network. What do you hope to learn tomorrow during the scrimmage? And while this answer might be obvious, I'm going to ask it anyway. Will tomorrow be the most football-like practice you've had so far?
Well,
intensity.
Yeah, Kim, I'd say the answer to that one's a simple yes.
Okay.
Just in terms of, you structure a lot of practices to see specific situations that match your install so the team can develop and, what you're teaching. Tomorrow will be a lot of put the ball down and play it out. Now we may put the ball down more in a red area, let them play at the red area, or put them in a backed up situation, let them play it out from that zone. But tomorrow is definitely going to be a lot more of just aware on the field, see the sticks, what's the down and distance. Jason call it, Pat call it, T-Mac have his unit ready to go if it's 3rd down, going into 4th down, and let's just go ahead and play it out and see how smart our players can react, see how physical they can play, and see how we can hold up our fundamentals and execution through a higher intensity.
Thank you.
Last question here, Jordan.
Hey, Joe, you've had an opportunity to see Evan Ingram now and the skills that he brings to the table firsthand. What can he be in your eyes if he can be on the field for 16 games?
Well, I'll tell you what, the way he works every day and the attention to detail he's shown, everything he gets coached on, to me, it's always a question of can this guy reach his potential based on the way he's working? And I think this guy can. Now in what time this guy's got a high ceiling. He's very, very talented. A lot of guys have a lot of talent and aren't as open to coaching. What I see from Evan is he's very in tune. He's very intelligent. He's very deliberate about how he works and what he's focusing on within each period. He listens to everything you say, and he tries to apply every technique as detailed as he can, and that's critically important. I'm very pleased with him. I'm very excited to work with him, Jordan. He's a guy that I'll tell you what, I saw him early in the process. When I first took the job, he was still around here rehabbing a little bit. And, obviously we lost physical contact with the players through the pandemic separation. But he's a guy that showed up from that time off really in great shape, put on some good weight. He came in ready to really train. We talked earlier in the interviews about the difference in being in shape and training, and he came in ready to train. You watch the way this guy runs through conditioning through the day. He's got a high motor. He's got a large gas tank to keep pushing through the day. And I'm really, really pleased with coming to work every day. I mean, he's one of them guys. Look, one of the comments I give him, and I'll give a lot of insight to this, but he's a guy that I just kind of tell him constantly, man, I love watching you practice. Like, let's not disappoint me out there today, because I really want to turn his tape on and see you flying around, because he's a fun guy to watch play because he has a lot of ability, but he loves the game too.
Joe, I also have something. You might think this is really silly, but when I preface it with that, you're in trouble, right? But there's a voice that the guy that says, 1 minute left or whatever over the loudspeaker. It really sounds like Bill
Belichick.
Yeah. Who is that? I mean, it's not Bill, right?
You know what? It's someone on our equipment staff. I think it's either Pridey. I don't think it's Amos Jones. Pat Hanlon asked me that earlier. But if you can get Bill to do a voiceover, you got something on him better than I do. I'll tell you right now. So, it was kind of a quick fix. We just wanted to make sure we got that after the first day to give the coaches a heads up. There obviously is a lot of moving parts in our practice that we just want to give everyone that kind of 1 minute warning, tie up your period, finish it up. If you're a far away, let's start transitioning early to make sure we can start the next period on time. So that 1 minute warning is just something we've just built in for the ease of transition.